roofing net profit and how to increase it. We've got a simple formula here. Great people plus automation equals profit. How do you find great people and how do you keep them?
Anybody can say they're great, but if you really want to be a great company, then it's going to take great people, and you're going to have to look through a lot of people to find the good ones. And then when you find the good ones, reward them and treat them like you want them to stay, right? Don't take them for granted.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast. And today I've got Jake Brydon of Heritage Construction. What's your guys' .com so if people want to go check you out, they can?
HeritageCCTX.com. Like
awesome.
And company, Texas.
Kind of key areas you guys serve in Texas. What are those?
Austin, College Station, Houston, McAllen, San Antonio.
Yeah. And I'll just note that I'm not as familiar with Jake as some of the people I have on this podcast. I actually asked people like, what roofing CEOs do you want to be like? And David Taggart tagged Jake here. And I think that says a lot because that guy's kind of a beast. And yeah. I know that he's on the come up, but I think he's going to do great things. And I think like him having he's also kind of a practitioner, you know what I mean? Like he's the kind of guy who does the work, who works hard, who also can actually like get on a roof and do work too. So I just always appreciate his perspective. So I appreciate you coming on today, man.
No, David's a stud and he's not looking for shortcuts, man. That guy's looking to build it right. And that's really what it takes in this day and age to do anything big is you got to love the process and you got to want to build it right.
That's awesome. And if you don't mind giving a little bit of your background and like how you got into roofing and what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, man, lots of mistakes. And I joke around that nobody ever goes to career day and says, hey, I want to be a roofer when I grow up. We all get here the same way, which is a series of either failed opportunities or bad decisions, right? And I'm no different, man. I got into the outdoor living space right out of high school and was doing patios and pools. And when the economy tanked in 2008, I kind of pivoted to roofing, not because I was some super smart businessman, but because I had to do something different because we were going out of business, right? And so for me, that was one of those, luckily I was young and learned a lot, but just had to kind of restructure and regroup and wanted something that wasn't so dependent on the economy. So that's kind of how I found roofing, or should I say it found me. I went to church with a couple of guys that were doing roofing at a real high level, and they invited me to be a part of it.
And then you guys also, now have RoofLink also, which is a roofing CRM, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. We developed that for my growing roofing company Heritage along the way, and then realized pretty quickly on that we were going to have to turn that into a product if we wanted to be able to keep it, because we had assembled this large software development team, and those things aren't cheap, and it never stops. I was under the delusion when we first got started with it that we'd spend X amount of dollars and we'd have this thing that we would be able to use forever, and man, that's not how software works.
So we'll keep any heavy RoofLink talk to the last 10 minutes of this podcast. So first I want to talk about roofing net profit and how to increase it.
Right.
And we've got a simple formula here. Great people plus automation equals profit from your point of view. And I know there's a lot more to it, but I want to really dive into some of these components that get a higher net profit. This is always what we're looking for. Everyone wants, it's always the sales stuff. It's always the leads. It's always the even just door knocking techniques or like hacks that people want to click on. But then when it comes down to it, we need this company to make money. Otherwise, this is a little bit exhausting for no money.
Yeah.
Because revenue is vanity, right? So Can we talk a little bit about the great people side of this? I love that you believe that that's one of the top things that's going to increase your net profit. How do you find great people and how do you keep them?
Well, you got to go through a lot of people to find good people. Unfortunately, there's probably 5 to 10 not so great people, or not great for us anyway, for every 1 or 2 great people. And so if you want to if you want to, anybody can say they're great, but if you really want to be a great company, then it's going to take great people, and you're going to have to look through a lot of people to find the good ones. And then when you find the good ones, reward them and treat them like you want them to stay. Right? Don't take them for granted. That's something you see a lot with entrepreneurial type people, is that we get so self-centered at times because we're laser focused on a mission that we forget about the people that are helping us build that with us, and just taking the time to sit back and look at it from their perspective and what you would want out of the opportunity if you were them, playing the old shoes on the other foot game.
I love that. What are some of like the key roles that you think are like, you've got, so I should have started with this. It's hard to start with revenue because it's like, but you have quite a bit of revenue in your company, right? And what's a number we could throw out that somebody would like kind of get the scale at which you're working?
Yeah, we're like right now $5 million a month in the spring and summertime, and we do as low as $2 to $3 million a month in the fall and winter. So it just
cool, perfect. Just kind of giving people a sense of the scale that you're working. You run it with not a ton of people though. What are some like the key kind of roles that you're like, damn, I'm so happy I have somebody in that role.
Sure.
I'm so happy I have somebody in that role, and I'm so happy.
You got to have your studs, your A players. You got to have good accounts receivable, good accounts payables, right? And ideally that person can do the same thing. I've got one person touching all the money, right? Coming in and going out. And that's somebody that you got to be able to trust, and that's somebody that's got to be able to handle a large volume of work. Because especially with the bigger your company gets, they got to be one of those people that I call it the talking while they type people. They can have a conversation with you, but they're still typing at the same time. That's your person, not the ones that are looking for an excuse they can to stop typing and start talking. And so you've got to have one of those people that can do that and are willing to put in, because you don't want extra people in this place. You don't want extra people touching your money. You don't want extra people making entries into QuickBooks. If you can get that down to one person, which we do, and we're, like you said, we're a pretty good size roofing company, just compared to industry averages. I'd say we're one of the larger on the larger end.
What do you think the industry average is for a roofing company?
Well, I used to think everybody was bigger than me, and now what I've come to realize is that 95% of it is 3 to 5 man bands that are doing $5 to $7 million a year.
And hey, by the way, like that's just the ones you see. There's like hundreds of these one guy operations, and I'm not even like frankly, a lot of those guys might listen to this podcast, so I don't want to be rude. It's just noting that like I think what you're saying is like, yeah, you always think everyone's bigger than you, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're bigger than a bunch of people, and it feels weird because you used to be the underdog. How have you dealt with that emotion of switching
when I was
from
coming up in the industry? There wasn't these roofing conferences and stuff where people got. The only thing we had that was kind of like that was we'd go on these big ABC trips, and so you kind of but everybody's bullshitting each other, so you never know who's doing really what, right? And they got to be doing something to go on those trips, but there's a big range there. So no, I think that you got to have a great AR AP person. You've got to have a great scheduling logistics person, and then just a general all around for permitting and making sure that your licensing with each city and municipality is all up to snuff, and just basically the back and forth. And that's really.
I thought this was Texas. You guys have licensing down there?
No, it's not. It's not like a general contractor's license, but each little city requires you to have stuff on file with them.
I'm just messing with you, man.
No.
They say not to mess with Texas, but it is so fun.
It's easy. That's right.
Yeah.
But no, that's really the three. That's really the only 3 positions you got to have, and you got to have somebody that's gonna, manage the crews and buying the material as far as logistics goes. Somebody that's paying them. Somebody that's making sure we're getting paid. And do the proper invoicing, and then somebody that's just making sure that all of the logistics are worked out on a job-to-job basis.
So when you said you have to go through a lot of people to find great people, you're talking about in the hiring process, you have to look through a lot of candidates, but you're probably also saying that you've been through a lot of people in your company, right?
Yeah.
Have
Oh, yeah.
you've had to let people go occasionally? You've had to kind of wade through people that didn't work out?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, this is like Survivor, and and the only people
Yeah.
left on the island are the people we haven't fired. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got if you want to grow a successful company, you have to be able to prune the tree, and that's just part of it. And so, no, I mean, for us, back before we kind of went down a path of automation, we had a ton of people, and so we really got to kind of boil that down to our best 3 or 4 people as far as
Hmm.
overhead positions go. And if you're not in that position, you're fortunate. If you're just on the way up, then just don't hire those people if you can avoid it, right? But
Yeah.
um, when you're when you don't have great systems, we'll just say that, then you've got to have a ton of people, and those people have to really be communicating well. And so it just happens that as you get bigger, there just becomes a lot more places for people to hide, and that's where most of this overhead comes in. Is in actual people costs, not
And
boats and stuff like that.
Top rep. We're doing top rep, and it's great training.
So you got to have that defined sales process. Chuck Toki specifically, I don't understand how people make it with a defined sales process as an established company, but just starting out, you definitely need to have that because they need to know, like, and trust you through the whole process in order to give you money.
one thing I've noticed too is that people want more people. Like there is a good chunk of like momentum that happens with hiring is like this person over here is like, I need help, but they always want another person. You know what I mean? So that's something that's like kind of difficult to deal with as an owner to constantly, you start to have to say no more often and just like kind of give them a little bit more like behind the scene. Well, that's how I feel. Maybe tell me what you do, but I sometimes want to be like, here's the finances. It doesn't work like that. We can't
Right.
just keep on hiring people constantly.
Well, and that's that. There's diminishing returns the more people you put on any problem. I mean, we've kept a
Yeah.
real lean, mean team at Heritage once technology allowed us to be able to do that. The same thing at RoofLink. RoofLink's a little bit different in the fact that we can't be as optimized there because we're in the business of automating other companies, which is a manual process. You can't automate automation, right? The creation of automation. So that business has 5 times as many employees as my construction company, simply because it's in the business of automating other businesses, which is a manual, hands-on, clean out the drawer together type of task, which is
Feels a little ironic for
yeah, it
some
is.
reason.
It's maddening, is what it is. Because I've got this
Yeah.
one business over here that runs primarily on technology with very few people. As far as from a office overhead, all of our employees at Heritage are all salespeople and managers of salespeople. And then,
How many salespeople do you guys have working for you?
man, we bounce around between 50 and 65 is
Oh,
kind of the
shit.
number of
Nice.
people that it takes to do what we're doing.
Yeah, cool. I
And it
like it.
changes every day. There's a
So,
lot of turnover in that role.
oh, absolutely. It totally makes sense. Before we move on from the topic of great people and really sorting through people, unfortunately, that's part of what it is. Um, I see a lot of people letting them sort themselves, meaning they allow low performers to hang out and then maybe leave on their own once they don't make enough money or whatever happens. What would you say? Is there dangers to that?
Well, in sales, if you're talking about straight commission sales organizations, I mean, there's some culture issues with that, right? There's some just this, nobody wants to be the lowest performing guy. So when you allow
Mm-hmm.
bottom feeders to create false bottoms for your team, then the guys that should feel like shit don't, because there's people below them. And so scraping that sludge off the bottom of the tank will help guys that they're not motivated. They're not winners, right? They're not motivated to be at the top of the list, but they damn sure don't want to be, they're just that average middleman type mindset. Yeah, cleaning that out and keeping that clean can help those guys not aim so low. But I've always been under the, as far as salespeople go, sometimes, just giving them a little more time to figure out, I mean, is this guy really okay with what he's doing and what he's making and the energy and effort he's having to put into that? Or is he just learning? Like, why
Yeah.
is he aiming so low?
It definitely takes time, like, especially because, yeah.
Yeah, our personalities, we don't attract a ton of, real losers, right? Like most of the people that come here, they want to do something big. They want to do well. And now they may not be willing to put the work in, right? So that's not a slam dunk. But we try to sift those people out in the recruiting process. I tell my recruiting team all the time, one bad hire is worse than 3 no hires, right? Because we actually have to facilitate them in the organization for a period of time, and they're taking up other resources, and then we have to fire them, which creates some liabilities for us with the workforce commission, et cetera. So I'd rather you not hire somebody than hire the wrong person.
That makes a lot of sense. At Heritage, what are some other kind of big net profit drivers? It's, you don't need to tell us the number, but when we talked about it before the podcast, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And we're not going to talk about it because it's not the point, but knowing that you do pretty good at that, what are some big net profit drivers that you could suggest for other roofing companies? Maybe they are in that 3 to 5 range and they're trying to level up, and without profit, it's really hard to grow a company.
Yeah, I think most of the time, if I've got over 3,000 contractors nationwide that use RoofLink and call me for advice on things like this from time to time. And it's never the guy with 3 Ferraris in his garage that's asking the profitability questions, which when you think about somebody being reckless with money or irresponsible money, that's the guy you're thinking about. It's always the guy with 3 extra people in his office that are dying and don't know why, because it doesn't feel extravagant and it doesn't feel frivolous, but it costs the same. Every person that you have in your organization that you don't need is like having a Ferrari sitting in your garage that you don't have time to drive. And it's just as irresponsible financially to have, this lethargic human being in your office taking 60, 70 grand a year out of your bottom line that is not doing the job that you need to have done, right? And so I would almost rather somebody have a Ferrari than that person, because at least they know that that's a luxury thing that they're, at least they know what they're getting for that, right? Versus having it go to some, person that is adding no value to them and that person's not happy either because they're making just enough to survive. So it doesn't even feel like them getting the 70 isn't the same as you spending the 70, because they're not even happy with what they're getting, and you're spending that type of money on stuff that you absolutely don't, on somebody that you absolutely don't need. And so it's one of the most irresponsible, keeping people on staff that you don't have to have. I mean, that you don't have to have is one of the most irresponsible things you can do financially as a business owner. And most people
would you say you think that happens more often in overhead positions or in sales positions at roofing companies?
Well, it's going to hurt more if it's overhead positions, and it happens a lot more if you got a sales guy that you're paying some sort of draw or salary to, and he's not outperforming that. You know that pretty quick, and it's a mathematical equation that you do every day as a business owner or a team leader. But when you've got somebody in your office that's not carrying their weight, and there's still that same $60,000 to $70,000 drag on the organization, a lot of times they don't get the same scrutiny that the sales guys get, and they get overlooked. I think they slip through the cracks a lot. And it's, the business owners, it's never uncommon that they look around and go, man, I don't see where all this money's going. It's like, you got 8 people right here and you're roofing 3 houses a week. What are they all doing? What are these people doing? Because they're expensive. People are very expensive.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it feels nice. Like, people don't want to do stuff themselves. That's part of it.
Hey, you might want to restart that. I got this fly that decided to just start fucking with that.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what I was really saying. I was just going to say, I get the temptation around that. I mean, I don't know. Marketing manager is a common position. Is a common position that, like, gets low performers. It's so funny. You know what I hate, dude? I hate about marketing I hate that, like, it's often like a failed sales guy that goes into the
Right.
marketing
Yeah.
position. What the
No, we've
fuck
got
is that? That's not like weird. It's an esteemed
I'll be right back,
position.
Tim. Let me grab this
Yeah.
slice over here. This guy's
All
gonna
right.
ruin our show here. Not to ruin his life though.
Yeah, fuck yeah. No, this is all part of the show, bro. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta this this is going in the show, Jake. The fucking the fly is our nemesis on this
Yeah.
episode. We needed a nemesis. Okay. And so, but I do want to know, like, just to wrap up that point about you just keep on hitting yourself.
Yeah.
The the point about like marketing is its own thing, and you should have a high performing if you've got one. And I know that you do a lot of door knocking and stuff like that. But organizations that are heavy marketing organizations should, if they have a marketing manager, it should be a high performer in marketing, not a failed salesperson. And that
100%.
it matters a lot because it's the whole mindset around it. You have low performers in marketing. That basically says I don't think marketing is very important. And I get it. I understand the temptation
No,
because
I see that a lot in companies. Yeah. They do that, and the other place they stick them that drives me just as crazy is in recruiting. And I'm like, oh my God, those are the two worst places you can put. You know, if they couldn't, sales is where I put people that can't hack it in these other positions, right?
Yeah.
Because anybody can do sales if you're willing to do the work. You don't have to have any special talents. In fact, sometimes guys that I think, man, there's no way they're going to be able to do this, they actually do really good at it. But yeah, if you can't make it in sales, there's nowhere else for you to go here. Like that's the place. That's the place that we're going to stick somebody if their talent doesn't jump off the page at us from the beginning. We're going to stick them in sales and see if maybe we misjudged the situation. The last thing we're going to do is go, man, they can't make it in sales. Let's start putting them in other seats on the bus, because that at the end of the day, if they don't sell nothing, okay, that's the cost of the organization is what we're paying them. This fucking fly is something else.
Keep it going. This fly is part of it. This fly is part of it. By the way, Jake is vacationing, so thank you for taking your time out of your vacation to say what's up with us. This fly is incredible. Like, so let's talk about you've got people sitting around in overhead at your organization. How could you have less people in overhead? Because some people think it's like this is work that needs to get done. What are the types of things that like could allow you to have less people in those positions?
Contractors love the catch-all because it makes every single one of their roof builds easier and more profitable. Protective netting wraps facade and landscaping to prevent from left-behind nails and damage. Homeowner referrals bring you more jobs, and insurance supplements bring you more profits. But my favorite part, the branding.
Well, a lot of times what creates the most overhead is when business owners, so you say you got a sales guy and he's really good at knocking on doors, but he's not so good at collections. He's not so good at project management. He's not so good at his own marketing, right? And so what the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs in the roofing industry make is, okay, well, this is the one part that I really need him to continue to be good at. And so I'm going to hire overhead positions around him to make him, I'm going to hire a project manager, and I'm going to hire a collections girl, and I'm going to hire, well, when in reality, you don't need to do that. You need to hire more project manager minded people and teach them how to sell than hiring used car salesmen and trying to teach them how to be a project manager and a collections agent and a secretary and everything all wrapped into one. I found that the people that work best for us is not the guys that sold security door to door. It's the guys that were building houses for David Weekley or any of those tract home builders, guys that are used to keeping that binder with a list of subs in there and are used to methodically working through jobs. And then we teach those guys how to do the prospecting and how to do the door knocking and how to do the sales part, because that's the part.
And you guys also like like as far you guys use RoofLink for this stuff, as far as like automation and stuff like that, right? As far as some of the tasks that could have been an administrative person at the office
Yeah.
are handled by this software. What are those kind of key tasks that get handled the most from the software?
Well, just so the way RoofLink works is it's kind of backwards from the way a lot of CRMs work. Our guys trace the roof out with our roof measuring tool, and then it creates the estimate material and work order for them. So since the algorithm is creating those things, then we don't have to spend a lot of time educating our sales guys how to build those things or checking their work. Whereas a lot of your office work is going to come in from making sure that they bid the job properly, that they have the proper material list, that they have the labor accounted for. We don't have to do any of that because this RoofLink generates those things for us, and they come out perfectly every time.
Nice. Yeah.
And so it's more of a just we got a person that's just checking the gauges and making sure that nobody's manipulated this behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing dishonest going on, and that's really all we're checking is to make sure that the sales guys haven't intentionally manipulated it to make it look more profitable than it actually is. And as long as they haven't gone in there and messed with it, then prove the job, let's put on the schedule, let's go.
RoofLink has a very good reputation in the roofing industry from what I say. I know it's an underdog a little bit because we've got some bigger CRMs that have been around a bit longer. You guys are 3 years in, right? New, pretty much. What are some of the aha moments or the things that people get excited about most once they start getting onboarded on RoofLink?
Well, it's kind of a slow burn, right? Like at first, it's just a pain in the ass because you're having to
Okay. All right. Yeah.
your business, and so you don't really receive the benefits of automation until after that happens, and you look up one day and you're like, oh my God, we're doing 2 or 3 times more business with the same number of people. We never had to hire more people as we grew, right? And that's when a lot of times our customers come back to us and go, okay, I get it now. That was all totally worth it, right? But to be able to do the amount of work that we're doing with only having 3 people in our corporate office has definitely what's allowed.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, well, not to mention that I was always told you can't run your business out of your shirt pocket, and that was obviously before the days of iPhones, right? And so now that's the biggest thing for me is to be able to travel and do. I'm a good starter. But then I find people to manage my businesses. I'm not involved in the day-to-day of any of my businesses because I like starting new ones. I'm starting a brand new one right now, and that's where I do my best work. Is in the
What are you starting? What's your new business?
It's called ProSwag, and it's apparel like this, fishing hats, fishing shirts, for contractors, by contractors.
Nice.
It takes the guesswork out of when you get the local lady down the street at the trophy shop that hands you a book full of shit, and as a business owner you got to pick through it all and you don't know what's garbage and what's not. We just kind of focused on the contractor and Columbia, Game Guard, that type of apparel, but at wholesale pricing. It comes.
What is the game farm or whatever? What is you said it's high fence? What is that?
Yeah, we have it's called the Aguanada Ranch, and it's a corporate event center centered around hunting, but mainly to bring groups of people together. I built it for my guys at Heritage. That's where we do all of our rewards trips and things like that. And then obviously I have RoofLink clients that go out there and utilize we've got a lot of facilities to do team building stuff and keep 30, 40 people there. It's 1,000 acres out in the middle of nowhere, and just a place for people to get away. And
it looks so cool, man. It looks super cool. I mean, that's kind of aspirational. I feel like for a lot of roofers to see having a farm like that's so cool.
You got to keep some money to be able to do that, right? Hunter Ballou with RoofCon took his team out there one time, and he's like, okay, now I finally figured it out, man. You're running drugs out of this place, aren't you? Because it's real close to the border of Mexico, and we put an airstrip in. It's like, I was wondering where you're getting all this money from. And I said, no, man, I'm just running a profitable roofing business. I'm not all this overhead that you see out here at the ranch. I'm not opposed to overhead. Look, I got a ton of it out at the ranch, but I want it to be on things that I want to spend money on. I don't want it to be on some $50,000 a year, old lady to sit at the desk and just answer the phone all day. Like I want it to go towards things that, that I like to invest in, like ranches and.
I always there's this distinction, I think, between, because I always tell roofers to stop getting distracted. I tell them, okay, like we're talking about $1 to $5 million guys here. Stop doing new businesses. But then there's guys like you who are doing it well. And I know it's different. I know it's different than what I'm telling guys to do. But then there's this guy that's like in his first couple years of a roofing company, but then he's also got like a dispensary or something. I'm just like, fucking stop, dude. So where is that line where, and maybe it's not, it's just a matter of time until that person is able to do $5-10 million businesses, but like 10 million plus. I know it's not just 10 million, but you know what I'm saying? Like, where's that distinction?
For me, I don't get to move on to my next one until I got somebody running my last one. So I didn't go, for me, the journey was heritage only for a period of time. And then we started RoofLink. And then once I hired, and then I ran RoofLink in the beginning. I handed Heritage off to Cody Perez. He's been running that successfully for 3 or 4 years now. And then I focused on RoofLink. And then Jesse and Kevin took RoofLink from me, and I let them have it. Right, here you go. Now run with it. And they are doing a great job with that. And then I spent the last year, 2 years building the ranch. And then Matt Perry is our ranch manager, and I handed that 100% to him. And now I'm focused on ProSwag, right? So and then I oversee all of them, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations of any of them. And I learned very early on that I can't be, because, I'm kind of potent, right? And if I spend too much time, look, I'll just wear people's ass out is the problem. So I have to move around. I cannot, if I go, if I'm having trouble in any of my organizations, the offer that I make to the management team there is, here, you know what? I'll be there next Tuesday. I'll work with you guys Tuesday through Friday. They're like, no. We got it. We don't need you to come do that. Like, that is the threat, is that I reward them with my absence. When they do really, really good, I know myself well enough to know that my gift to them is that I'm going to stay out of it. I'm going to stay away from it. And
that's beautiful.
It's tough to learn that about yourself, right? To know that you've got the kind of personality that will flat ass wear people out. But at the same time, if you know how to use that in small doses, and you know how to temper yourself, and you know how to, and you're socially aware enough to go, hey, I need to give them space to let them learn and let them do this, then it's a superpower too. And so you've got to, I've spent the first 25 years of my life trying to figure out how to change myself. And then I've spent the last 10 or 15 years going, okay, this is what I'm riding with. And now I just got to figure out how to do that in a way that makes it adds the most value back towards the organizations that I'm leading and the people that I'm doing life with. If I can have a better relationship with you because we only spend, 1 weekend a month together, then let's do that. But why try to overdo that? Why try to put too much of me into that situation? A lot of guys haven't figured that out yet.
Wow. I feel like we're on a roll, so I hate to end it here. Although this podcast is pretty potent as well, and we know our limits, which is to stick with a one good half hour with a nemesis of a fly.
That's
right. Jake, bro, what you're doing is incredible, and it's obviously like people are looking up to it in the industry, and we really appreciate you being part of the industry. And I like to think of myself as part of the roofing industry, even though I'm a dirty marketer. Appreciate your time taking a minute to be on the podcast here, man. Thank you for being part of it.